Before I was elected to Congress, I served in the United States Marine Corps.
Before I was elected to Congress, I served in the United States Navy.
I served in the United States Army.
I served in the U.S. Navy.
I served in the United States Air Force.
I served in the United States Army.
The few, the proud, the Marines.
When you put on that uniform, you swear an oath to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Just like the oath we took as members of Congress.
But a few folks who serve alongside us seem to have already forgotten what that oath is all about.
Trying to overturn a lawful election, attacking our very democracy.
Just to appease a defeated president.
The thing is, our country's founders envisioned a Donald Trump, but our democracy is stronger than his enablers. So long as we put service to country first, the voice and the vote of the people will prevail.
That is a first look at the new ad from the Political Action Committee, Vote Vets. And joining us now, one of the veterans featured in that ad, Democratic Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill of New Jersey. She, as you heard there, a U.S. Navy veteran and member of the House Armed Services Committee. Congresswoman, it's great to see you this morning. I want to ask you about that ad, but first, the order of business today in that joint session of Congress. I think a lot of people will be tuning in and watching closely because of what some Republicans have pledged to do today to object to the Electoral College certification that has frankly just been a formality through the years. It's the reason we don't know a lot about it as a public, as viewers. So what do you expect to see today? How's this going to play out?
Well, good morning, Willie, and that's exactly right. This is normally just a pro forma session, read a roll call of the electoral count. It takes about half an hour. But we've been concerned for months now that the president was going to try to disrupt this. So I've been part of a group of lawyers, constitutional scholars that have been looking at how to ensure a peaceful transition of our government. And today marks one of those mileposts. We will meet at 1 o'clock in a joint session. The vice president will preside because he will be presiding in his role as the president of the Senate, but it's a largely ceremonial role. He will read the roll call of states alphabetically and the votes from the states, and then if at least one member of the House and one member of the Senate provides a written objection to certifying any of the state's electoral vote counts, we will break up. The House will meet to debate. The Senate will separately meet to debate for no more than 2 hours, and then both will come back together to vote on that objection. And
of course, the President of the United States has asked his vice president to do something. He hasn't specified what exactly he expects him to do. Vice President Pence, trying to buy himself some time, has said he's going to study the issue right up until 1 o'clock today. So for people who are a little nervous hearing all this talk from Republicans, do you believe from where you're sitting there's any chance that this process is derailed today?
No, Willie. You know, I have been studying this issue, and the vice president does not have the role of being able to contest these electoral votes. Make no mistake, this might take longer than it normally does, but Congress will fulfill its constitutional duty today, and Joe Biden will be certified as the President of the United States and inaugurated on January 20th.
Congresswoman Yamiche Alcindor is here with a question for you. Yamiche?
Hi, good morning, Congresswoman. I have a question about what you see in Georgia and how you think that this might be a sort of blueprint for Democrats and Republicans going forward when we think about the future of American democracy. And I also want to ask you, when you look at the fact that, yes, Joe Biden is going to be president in about 2 weeks, what does it say, though, that you're going to have senators stand up and object to this? What does it do to American democracy? And will it at all hurt, do you think, the presidency of Joe Biden?
Well, make no mistake, we are facing stress tests from this president again and again and again. But what we have seen time and again is that our democracy is holding strong. The sort of magnificence of this Constitution that the Founding Fathers wrote, anticipating, for example, that elected officials might be too close to the president to decide this fairly, which is why it was left to the Electoral College and the states, and imagining that we would have this kind of malfeasance. So I'm incredibly disappointed. It's why I was part of that ad you just saw, to see that my colleagues would not take their oath to the Constitution as seriously as they should be, and would try to undermine our democracy for their own personal power. However, I think that what we've seen from Georgia is a reaction to that, a reaction to the President of the United States calling up a Secretary of State to tell him to find him some votes, and if not, he might be prosecuted. The people want their voices heard. I think this is a direct reaction. And then what happened in Georgia, and what's likely to happen as we see these races called, is that we will now have a majority in the Senate. And it has been so difficult for the past 2 years in the House to have a Senate I'm hoping to say soon Senate Minority Leader, but to have Senate Majority Leader McConnell again and again and again blocking legislation on CARES Act legislation, loans to small businesses, contact tracing, testing, vaccinations, schools, nutrition funding, on having him block reform in this country that is so needed with respect to our police departments, making sure that he's blocking legislation on critically needed infrastructure, blocking legislation when it comes to fixing our healthcare system and getting people more access to healthcare. And we've seen how that's impacted people during the pandemic. So not having Mitch McConnell as the majority leader, someone who calls himself the Grim Reaper of legislation, he calls himself that, having him not be running the Senate, I think will be incredibly helpful to Joe Biden and to the running of this country, quite frankly.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.